Toward the beginning of my life, I want to mention something about my church experiences. Uh, Toward the beginning of my life, our family didn't go to church and didn't say much about it. But my sister started going to the local Episcopal church, and the next thing we knew, the woman that was giving her a ride there somehow recruited mom to dad and dad to start going too. And then uh, a strange thing happened, which was that dad met the bishop for the missionary district of Eastern Oregon for the Episcopal Church, who happened to be a man who was a couple years older than dad, but basically the same age. Both men, tall, imposing, educated people who like to read and think and talk about what they had read and were thinking about. And so those two became very good friends. And the bishop appointed dad to be uh, his chancellor, which is what the word for lawyer for the district, a volunteer position. Uh, I should back up. When Dad and the bishop had their experience of starting to what they call now bonding, uh, Dad invited the bishop and his son to go sturgeon fishing with him and with Dad and me. And when we got back from fishing and walked into the house, it was not terribly hot, but it was a warm day, and Dad was visibly uneasy about whether to offer the bishop a drink. How little that shows how little he knew the bishop, who was a lifelong uh, moderate drinker. But he said to the bishop, "Well, could I offer you a beer?" And the bishop said, "If you don't give me that beer right away, I'm going to drown in my drool." And Dad laughed, and a friendship was formed. So, anyway, after they got to be better acquainted, the bishop started calling on Dad when they had a problem with one of the ministers in the sprawling Eastern Oregon district. Uh, Burns, Bend, uh, John Day, not Coos Bay, John Day, Hermiston, Pendleton. And so when there'd be a problem, the bishop would call Dad up and say, "Pack your toothbrush," and then he would come by the house and get Dad, or somehow they'd reconnoiter and they'd go to the town where the problem was. In the Episcopal Church, they have what they call a vestry, which is a committee of lay people, and they have some, uh, based on the rules of the church, they have some power. And so the bishop has the final say if a minister is going to be moved or removed, but the vestry is supposed to be listened to, and the bishop honored that. So when there was an uprising in one of the churches because one of the ministers had done something that really made the parishioners mad, uh, and particularly the vestry in that church, they would call the bishop, and the bishop would get Dad, and they'd go in and do a mission to see what they could do. Uh, and they had a real vested interest in saving the ministry of that particular minister because there was a shortage of people who were willing to do that work at the low pay that ministers got. I think they were getting paid less than school teachers, and the so there was a shortage of them. Of course, you're supposed to go to a seminary, they call it. It's a religious training. Uh, Hopefully, after you've gotten a bachelor's degree from college. I'm not sure that always happened either, but you're supposed to have some training. Uh, and so they would go in and meet with the vestry, find out what the issue was, and talk with the minister and his wife, and then they would mediate. And I think more times than not, they were able to save the save the ministry, keep the minister there with his job. And there were a variety of things they had to deal with. I remember there was maybe one of the most noteworthy was that there was this minister who was had come from Germany, and he and his wife had a child who was developmentally delayed. I'm not sure if the child had Down syndrome, but they were ashamed and they kept him hidden. And the people in the church didn't even know they had this child. And then somebody found it out, and in the meantime, the rumor that swept through the congregation was that they were keeping him locked in the closet upstairs. What the facts were, I don't know. But I do know that was not long after the Second World War, and the fact that this fellow was German and had a heavy German accent, there was this excitement. Oh, they're treating him badly, like the Germans treated people that had disabilities. They somehow or another they came out the other side without that fellow being run out. I don't know how long he lasted after that, but he at least was there after they'd run their rescue. Another one was a fellow who at the age somewhere around 70 lost control of himself and started going and standing behind a bush and then stepping out with his penis exposed to people driving by. And I learned at the time that the lay description of that, according to the bishop, was lily waver. And I think they forced him into retirement when that problem blew up. But Dad and the Bish, and I think the bishop, although he appeared to be this massive, powerful man that everybody was a little bit afraid of, as I got to know him better, he was really a very gentle man, and I've subsequently gotten to know his extended family very well. Ended up representing his wife's estate when she died. But Dad was the ramrod, the Bish was the conciliator, but the two, they ham and egged it to make things work. And they were so happy that they felt that they were effective at doing this. So that was a wonderful thing. My dad is the chancellor. But now I'm going to start another tape and tell about the sad thing that happened about all that.